Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 100 Essential Films You've Got to Check Out. This week, we are going over an epic movie, and I have a lot to say, not only about the movie and my thoughts on it, but also a couple interactions I've had with some people over the last week or so that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So sit back and relax as I tell you about our next film, which is Lawrence of Arabia from 1962 is a British epic historical drama based on the life of T.E. Lawrence and his 1926 book, The Seven Pillars of Wisdom. Starring Peter O'Toole as T.E. Lawrence, Alec Guinness as Prince Faisal, and Claude Rains as Mr. Dryden. This movie was a huge success, with a $15 million budget and a $70 million box office return. Commercially, it was a smash. It was also nominated for 10 Oscars at the 35th Academy Awards in 1963, and it won 7 of those nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. In 1991, it was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, which earned it being reserved in the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress. In 1998, the American Film Institute placed it 50th in their 100 Years, 100 Movies list of greatest American films. Even though it was a British film, it had American distribution, so I guess we get to claim that as ours a little bit as well. In 1999, the British Film Institute named this film the 3rd greatest film of all time, and then in 2004, it was voted the best British film of all time in a poll among Britain's leading filmmakers. With all of that being said, I could not stand it. I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I will probably continue to always say it because it is such an important thing to remember when you hear somebody review or suggest something. Not everybody has the same taste in films. I had mentioned before, I believe, in The Bridge to Kauai, that war films aren't really my cup of tea in the first place, so it's got to really catch my attention. Lawrence of Arabia is 3 hours and 45 minutes long, and there are some scenes that just drag on forever because nothing is happening in the story. It's showing some great scenery, and I'm sure people would argue and say that, well, in those scenes you see how hot it is, or you get the feeling of what it's like being in that desert, and you're probably right. Those scenes probably really put you in the center of that desert on the back of a camel, which to me sounds terrible. That is not an experience I would ever want to do. So feeling that way really made me not enjoy the movie. I'm curious how it would feel if those scenes were edited shorter and maybe brought the film in at 2.5 hours rather than 3 hours and 45 minutes. Because again, that is a long time to watch a movie that you are not into. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I've had some interactions over the last week or so with some people that did not agree with my reviews. One of them was from my buddy who disagreed with my take on Vampire, which is totally fine. I'm not saying anybody is wrong. And again, I say it's just my review. And he backed it up with a lot of really good points that made me consider going back and rewatching it through new eyes after hearing his defense of it. The other movie that came into question was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, or which I'm probably still not saying it right. That movie came up in conversation between a friend of mine and myself, and she loved it. She said it felt very Tim Burton-y, which in retrospect I can absolutely see. And I remember my review being that it was so-so, that I wasn't really that into it. But then we had some great conversations about the scenery and the way that it was written. I'd like to believe that disagreeing on things is a way to bring people together, not to try to force them to see it from your point of view, because not everybody feels the same way. And apparently all of Britain will disagree with me on Lawrence of Arabia, which is totally fine, because I know that it's just not for me. And I'm sure there are going to be movies that I suggest or rant and raved about how great they are to you guys that are going to be absolute trash. Matter of fact, I just got a box of about 10 of them in. I was so happy to get these DVDs, and I know that not a single one of them is good. And for just one example, because it was just within arm's reach of me, Sorority Babes at the Slimeball Bolorama, I know is not a good movie. And this is not my first or second or third copy of this. This is now officially the 4th version of this that I own. So, so I know that we are going to differ. If you like historical films, if you like war films, this is going to be right up your alley. I will say that the story is really interesting. This film is about Lawrence's experiences in the Ottoman Empire during World War I. In particular, it goes over his attacks on Damascus and Aqaba, if I'm saying that right, and his involvement in the Arab National Council. You see his emotional struggles with personal violence, dealing with his own identity, and more importantly, his divided allegiance between his native Britain and his newfound comrades in the Arabian desert. And his newfound comrades in the Arabian desert tribes. How do you feel being torn in two different directions? The story is really good, and I'm sure a lot of people, most people found this to be the best film of all time. For me, it just didn't do it. So I'm not saying don't watch this movie. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie. In fact, it's a great movie, just not my cup of tea. And you know how those Britons are with tea. I've talked to a couple of people about Lawrence of Arabia since this came up on the poster, and I found that there are at least a few that were immediately turned off by the running time of this film. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Does hearing that a movie is 4 hours long or close to it turn you off completely no matter what the content is? Have you already seen this? Did you think it ran too long? Or did you not mind the runtime? So don't forget to comment below, and I will check it out after we do the scratching. And this is the scratching off of Lawrence of Arabia. I'm sure it's going to be a desert scene behind this, because that's what all of this movie was. There's a surprise. It's a camel. Lawrence of Arabia. So that's the scratching off of Lawrence of Arabia. Check back next week when we watch Dr. Strangelove, which is a movie I've heard of, but I don't think I've seen. So I'm interested to check that out. I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to check out this video. I want to take this time to thank you guys for checking out this video, hitting those buttons down below, and maybe sharing with some friends. Very big I love you, thank you to my Patreon subscribers whose names are going to pop up in just a minute. We're halfway to the 20 mark for the drawing for the Everyone is Awesome Lego set. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. And on that note, I'm going to get out of here. I love you all. I'll see you next Tuesday. Later days.